jamming. I call it a jamming session. I always refer it to the jamming sessions that we do together on every Friday. So a lot of interesting things are planned today, and so keep your pen and pencil ready also, because you may want to jot down a few things. But to start up the whole thing, we'll get it fueled up with Katie's session. It's going to be a little shorter than usual today because we want to dedicate more time for the engaging activity. So over to you, Katie.
Great. Okay, so we're going to have to move a little faster through our stretches also. And then we'll just do a few short sets. So I hope everyone's ready. What we're going to do is we're going to just start hopping on the spot or marching on the spot for 30 seconds, just to get that heart rate going a little faster first. You could just march, you could just hop 30 seconds. And then what we'll do is we will also stretch while we're doing this next. So more movement. 15 seconds more, keep going. Okay, relax. Super. Now, we're just going to jog on the spot while we rotate our arms. Now get them all the way back, then up, and then forward. So I'm challenging your coordination today. We're going to jog and stretch and mobilize your joints at the same time. And reverse, change direction, get your hands closed, go back, hands closed, and then go back. Keep moving. And stop. Okay, now we're going to pick up this knee, roll it in, bring it down, pick up the knee, roll it in, and bring it down. We're just doing 5 per leg. After 5, we'll change the direction. So we'll start in the front, roll out, and then go down. So switching the direction now. Up, out, and down. Up, out, and down. Let's keep moving. 5 up this way. Okay. Next move, we're going to sweep the floor. So lift this leg in the front, sweep down, stand up, other foot, sweep down, and stand up. 5 on each leg. Stretching your hamstring, keeping the back a little straight as possible. Don't round the back too much, and just keep moving. Okay, next stretch coming up. We're going to hold the foot behind us, lift up on our toes, drop it down. Lift up on our toes and drop back down. Okay, one last one now. We're going to go a little wide. Reach down. That's the first part. If you can't reach the floor, that's okay. Maybe you can take your legs a little wider. Try. This arm is going to come up. I'm going to twist up and go back down. 5 times. So my left arm to my ear. and I twist down and try and look up. For 5, and then after 5, we'll change the hand, get the other arm behind the ear, and again look up for 5 repetitions. Great. We're doing 10 of these. Super. On your own, everybody. I don't need to check on most of us here. We're all doing it quite well. Once we finish 10, let's stand up. Since these squats look so superb, we'll do one more set of 7. 7 more, sitting down to that footstool or the chair and standing back up. Remember, you want to, it's a target for you to send your hips back to. You don't want to send the hips forward, send the hips back and squat. That way we'll avoid all knee pain. If the hips go ahead, our knees are going to start speaking up. After 7, one last time, let's lie down on our back after 7 of these squats and do our 10 leg lifts, and we'll be done. Super. 30 sessions in, everyone's squats are looking so good. Great. Swati, I think back to you. Let's get to the fun stuff now.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, everybody. Take a few seconds, grab your water.
Grab your water, actually.
Considering all the high intensity and all the heat that there is.
And already the atmospheric heat. I don't know about Mumbai. So, Sujit, is it as hot? Because Pune is right now, I mean, it's blazing. Even the air is so hot. When you breathe in, you feel that there is a gush of hot air entering your system.
It is very hot here as well.
Hot and humid, probably. Is everybody, have you all upped your water intake? Better than before?
I have for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
What about you, Gandhali, Kedar sir, Priya?
Yes. Water intake.
What? Because it has to be a little more than now usual.
I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
So have you improved your water intake now? Now that the temperatures are soaring up in Pune, it starts getting so warm right in the beginning of the day itself. I mean, 9:30, you can't step out.
I think it is necessary to fill up bottles and measure it.
This is a very good idea. You can keep your bottles ready, and towards the end of the day, always check on how much water you've actually consumed. And plus, increase the water content also of the food. So more fruits and vegetables which have a higher content of water. Include more buttermilk, curd. Even the dals also. I mean, if you're taking the one bowl of thick dal, just dilute it a little bit and have 2 cups of dal. And actually, your body also starts giving you that signal, automatically you start reaching out to more foods which are having a higher water content. So talking about, summers, I think we'll have to talk about it for the next 2 months for now. I have with me my new team member Suvarna. Uh, what I like about her, I have been following her for a very long time, is at a very young age she had cracked the whole, the equation of eating raw. She's a strong follower of veganism. She's a master at vegan diets. So I would want her to, throw a little bit of light on, how exactly we can introduce, some new foods to the existing diet pertaining to this changing temperatures. And yes, I want you to throw a little more light on how exactly we can include more raw items in the diet.
Hmm.
Over to you,
Yeah,
Suvarna.
yeah. So hi everybody, and I'm feeling very energetic after Katie's session. So I'm all set to convey what I actually believe in. Okay. So is Marathi okay for everybody, or should I be juggling between English and Marathi?
Okay with me.
Okay, fine. So now, as we say that, as we all know that summer is setting in, so obviously as the weather changes, our food habits, our food choices also do change, right? So by looking at the temperatures, rising temperatures, we always feel that we should be having foods which we do not have during cold weathers, right? So now automatically the nature gives us that instinct that you should be having foods which more uh, are more naturally water dense. So have you ever observed that why once the summer starts settling in, we feel like having more of muskmelons. We want to have more of cucumbers. We want to have more of fruits and vegetables which are fresh in nature, plus which will give us that feeling of hydration. Do you ever feel that the change?
Yes, that's the
Yes,
indication.
obviously.
And
So
mangoes also.
perfect. So basically, I just want to add 4 points here. Why you should go raw, more of raw during summers is one, raw foods, for example, fruits and vegetables are extremely low in calories. Okay. So because as we feel that they are more naturally hydrated. So the calorie content of these foods are very, very low. So even if you're having in more amount, that will not add up to your calories. Okay. So if you are on weight loss journey, these raw fruits and vegetables are extremely good buddies. Okay. Second important point is these foods are very, very easy to digest. So if you are looking at cooked food as such, and if you look at raw foods, so the energy that is required to digest these raw foods is very much on a lower scale. Okay. So whenever we feel like, detoxing our body or going for a fast, these foods are the best choices that we can make. Third thing is, majority of the times you feel that these foods give us cooling effect. So if you feel that during the hot summers, maybe you feel like having more of drinks which are like kokum drink, or maybe coolers, maybe mocktails, maybe iced teas, other than the hot drinks, right? So the reason behind that is because during summers, because of the high outside temperatures, we tend to lose more of water from our bodies through sweat. Okay, and that is the reason there is somewhat electrolyte imbalance that is created within the bodies. And to replenish that and to maintain that, the nature gives us that instinct that you should be having these foods like coconut water, which has an excellent electrolyte balance. Okay, or combination rather, I would say. So if you have more of these foods, these are naturally hydrating on a cellular level. Okay, so it's not only that we are drinking for to replenish the water which is being lost through sweat, but these are also important on the cellular level to manage cellular level dehydration. Okay. Now, in case if I want to categorize these foods, I'll just quickly do that. Under fruits and vegetables, all the melon categories are excellent. Okay, during summers. In case of vegetables, all the vegetables like cucumber, all sorts of cucumber, Then you have even beetroots are good, tomatoes are good. I would like to specially mention about white onions that we get it during summers. So white onions are, the glycemic index of white onion is extremely low. It's around 10. Okay, so it's excellent for diabetics also. So even if any person who has diabetes and want to go for all these salads, so white onion or general onion also plays a very important role. Okay, now if I want to go move ahead with say spices, okay, fennel seeds, that is we call it as bodyshave. Okay, bodyshave has an excellent cooling effect on your body. So during summers, even if you go for this warm or cold fennel seed teas, that is bodyshave tea, that will give you that cooling effect when you feel little hotter from inside. Okay, now after that, if I want to move on to herbs, so herbs like mint. Mint is a very good herb for during, you can use it during summer times. So just by adding to your smoothies, your salads, or maybe just having mint leaves as just clean it, wash it properly, and have a few mint leaves. These also give excellent source of vitamin A, which is required for your eye health, your skin health, and your hair health. So all these foods are not only are giving only one particular benefit, but these are packed with nutrients which give many different benefits on a regular basis to maintain your overall well-being. And if we want to especially talk about hypertension and diabetes, which are lifestyle diseases which are on increasing number, then all these foods must be included during your summertime. And one more thing I would like to mention, especially about kokum also, that we use continuously. It also helps to improve your digestion and reduce your acidity. So just go ahead and include all these fruits and vegetables in your diet. And especially, I would like to mention that if you're going more on raw vegetables and fruits, especially in case of fruits, fruit should not be included with any other meals. That is not the right practice to have fruit. So the ideal time of having those foods are either between lunch and breakfast, that is around 11 o'clock, or say about around 5 o'clock. So between your lunch and your dinner. Okay. And second is in case of salads also, if you want to include, you should include. So that the ideal time of having that is just before having your meals. So if you're planning to have a bowl of salad around your lunch time, so just finish your salad first and then have your cooked meal, because raw foods take very less time to clear out through your system. So the transit time is very less, and that is the reason if you have cooked food first, the food that stays in your stomach for say about in your system for about 4 hours, and if you have raw above that, after that, it gets stuck within the system, and then fermentation process starts, and then we feel that there is some digestive disturbances and other things like bloating. So to avoid all these things, to maintain your good health during summers, I think you should definitely start including all these things. And especially it's a very vast topic. So we at the SwitFit will be coming up with different or lectures altogether on such topics if you all are interested. So that's all from my end at this moment, because I would like to give this hand it over to Mr. Shashank Patkar, who will be guiding us on this hydroponics thing.
I'm a big fan of Mr. Patkar's reviews. I'm so glad, in the beginning, because I joined SwitFit and I was introduced to the hydroponic vegetables, and all this while I had, the last time I had seen hydroponics was only in Dubai, where they used to grow all the herbs and, cucumbers. That was one hydroponics plant that I had seen near Quain. And I was so fascinated. And the day, Anand introduced me to you, I was so happy. And the produce was fabulous. I'm sure, Mr. Patkar, you remember, I used to post pictures initially when I used to cook using those. I used to send him pictures also of whatever I've been eating. So, but there is, there is a lot being asked about what exactly hydroponics is, and the whole science of growing vegetables with water. So if you could guide us about it, because there are many, as a nutritionist, I am very keen, because we have never been taught about it. It's a new advent, and it's absolutely new to us. So if you can open that entire box of curiosity, we'll be very happy to know more about it.
Yes, curiosity and secrets. Yeah. So go to the next slide. Yeah. So first of all, means today, what are the problems faced by all of us, right? When we are consuming vegetables, is we get everything, and not to blame farmers, but just to get a yield, better yield and becoming profitable, they use excessive chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Then if you see our groundwater, almost 78% districts of India groundwater is contaminated. Means contaminated beyond purification. And that is basically that again, it's rivers are part, barring few rivers in the north, but they are also contaminated by the time they reach plains and pass through cities like Delhi. So they also get contaminated, but soil is contaminated, water is contaminated, and air actually in vehicular pollution, typically the heavy metals like lead, the content of lead and mercury, and it all finally gets into vegetables what we buy. Now, again, is the storage and transport. Like most of the leafies or vegetables, if you see, they are for sale on the footpaths, or even even if you enter Monday, you will not buy anyway. But even if you see, sometimes you pass Deccan area, like cauliflowers and vegetables are just kept roadside, and they are catching all these contaminations which are available in the air, right? Now, again, the problem of delivery, like farm to fork, right? By the time you get the vegetables, the way really they are transported, and nobody can afford cold chain, really, the farmers, and also they are not fresh, and their nutrition value is already deteriorated. So basically, consumers want residue-free, farm fresh. You take the list and nutrient rich and everything. But what we are not aware, what is happening is, even if we do proper washing and cooking, we cannot completely eliminate the residues and heavy metals. And which is now leading what people, I also heard this word very recently, biological magnification. But what really people are talking that our consumption is not only affecting us, but the effect is magnified to the next generation. And again, it magnifies through each and every. For example, fish, they eat the leafies, then the fish are eaten by, say, birds, then birds are eaten by us, and so on. And at every food chain, again, there is a magnification effect. So it is really affecting all of us. You can go to the next slide. So what is really hydroponics? And I will show you some picture and explain more. So it is a soilless cultivation of vegetables and fruits under protected environment. So there are two important words here. One, it is soilless, and other, it is protected environment. Now, protected environment, let me explain first. So it is grown in greenhouse typically. Now, greenhouse are of two types. One is naturally ventilated, and other is environmental control. That means the cooler weather crops are grown year round, even in hotter regions, using the climate control greenhouses, and other are naturally ventilated greenhouses. And there are different crops are grown in different type of greenhouses. Now, when I say soilless, typically all the wine varieties are grown in coco peat. Coco peat is powder coconut husk, And in fact, you will be surprised, India is one of the largest supplier of coco peat or exporter of coco peat. Entire our, now it's a new business, and very helpful for coastal region states. then all the lettuce varieties, like all leafy greens, are grown directly in water. Okay. The term NFT is, it's a flowing water. It's a thin film of water, and DWC is like deep water culture, where there is a pond of water and there are floating lettuces planted in the material like styrofoam or thermocol, and it is floating and growing. Now, again here, typically water use is RO water, and it is pH balanced. So typically most of the vegetables are grown pH of, between 6.5 around to 7.5. But 6.5 and 7 are most vegetables are grown. Fertilizers are supplied only through water and exactly as per the need by the plant for its growth stage. That means actually all of you know that the plants really they require what we call NPK, like nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and they absorb it through water, use sunlight, and create glucose and oxygen, right? And use carbon dioxide from the air and release oxygen and glucose, which is developed used for the plant growth. Now, most importantly, the fertilizers are given and the water is given exactly as per the plant growth. So there is a lot of saving of water and there is very, very minimal use of fertilizers. That way the absorbed residues are reduced substantially. And then the plants are grown in optimal condition of light, temperature, and humidity. And I will show you some pictures. Go to the next slide. No, before that. Yeah. So benefits are clearly the soil and waterborne pests and diseases are almost 95% eliminated. I'm saying 5% because sometimes some of the diseases do get inside the greenhouse, and then we have to use like all biological sprays like neem sprays and so on, and that much is enough typically. So most soil and water-based pests and diseases are eliminated. Protected environment eliminates requirement of poisonous pesticide and weedicides. See, in the open cultivation, along with the main crop, there are a lot of weeds. And weedification is a very labor-intensive activity. So what most farmers do nowadays, they just spray very, very poisonous spray on the weeds, which kills which actually burns the weeds. Such a poisonous material is that. But when they are spraying those on the weeds, obviously through wind and whatever, it also gets into the main crop. And when they are spraying, particularly in the open farms, just that its effects remain stronger, they use something called as stickers. So that all the pesticides and these weedicides, they stick onto the leaf surface for longer period of time just to be effective. But that is again harmful because more it sticks on the leaf, it gets absorbed inside the vegetable or the fruit vegetable or leafy vegetables or even grains, and then of course the other benefits are yields are higher. Much less water is used here. Of course, the corn side, it's a very high setup cost. Also, managing it requires a lot of management, inside greenhouse cultivation. We always call like all the vegetables inside greenhouse is like patient in ICU, while it is protected from all the diseases. If disease gets into greenhouse, it also takes us a lot of time to take it out. So it is a lot of management intensive investment, a particular hydroponic. Let's go to the next slide. Now I'm showing you pictures. So see here in the left hand top, there are all kind of lettuces. Okay, now they are grown in the channels. If you can see, they are like 45-day cycle, and in the channel there is flowing water. Okay, on the left hand side, and you can see lolo, romaine, butterhead, all kind of lettuces in the picture, and the fertilizers, the temperature of the water is maintained as per the root zone temperature required. Fertilizers are given through the water, and the pH is maintained, so the acidity and alkalinity, so the plant growth is proper. On the right hand side is a very different example. If you see, it's almost, and by the way, I don't know, can you recognize the vegetable in the right hand side vertical tower?
Coriander.
Yes, it is coriander. So again, it is grown in channels, and channels are filled either with water or coco peat, and there is absolutely no touch of mud. Also, there are two ways of, they are either harvested in a cut manner, okay, and they are regrown, or with the roots. So right hand side down, you can see typically the lettuces are harvested with roots. Okay, so they don't regrow again. I mean, they can, but not economically regrown. And the left hand side, you can see it is one greenhouse is in making. So it is, the stands are being laid out. So on the stands, the channels are kept, and then the piping system is installed. On the left hand side, you see the brown wall. That brown wall is actually a pad. It is like a desert cooler pad, and you can see the fans on the top. So once this is ready, this is actually a temperature controlled greenhouse. Like the temperature will be maintained around, it's like air conditioning. Well, not like 23 degrees or 22 degrees, but it is like 24, 25, 26 degrees. So mostly lettuce is a cool weather crop. Broccoli is a cool weather crop. Most of the leafies are cool weather crop, except spinach. Spinach can be grown in naturally ventilated greenhouse. You go to the next, and even just go back. Even if you see the surface, you know, on the right hand side top, you can see it is laid with the plastic sheet. So inside also there is a very hygienic environment. You know, on the right hand side, you can see where the corianders are there. So there are two ways of doing it. One is the plastic sheet is laid, or sometimes, and you will see in the next picture, the khadi is laid, which is so that no other weeds are grown. Go to the next slide. Next, yeah. So now this is naturally ventilated greenhouse. So all the vine crops, you can see cherry tomatoes, red, yellow, even melons. Then down below is cucumber. So now if you see both cherry tomato and cucumber, they are not in water, but they are not in soil. You can see the troughs in which the coco peat is there. So in the left below picture, you can see some troughs where the plants are not yet planted. They are getting ready for plantation. And then on the left side of the greenhouse, it is the cucumber plants are growing. And on the top, you can see the cherry tomato, red and yellow, are fruiting. Even the melons are grown in the trough system basis, so that there is no soil touch of the melon. And because melons are very heavy, actually they have to be supported, you know, while otherwise the vine breaks. Because see, our traditional melons, they grow on the ground, and then again contamination happens. But these melons, and they are normal melons, right? Musk melons, they are grown hanging and they are supported. Now you go down and you will see that some buckets and lot of tomatoes there. So this is again called as a Dutch bucket technique. Again, it is hydroponic, but inside there is no coco peat. There are expanded clay balls. So, so basically what hydroponic principle says, ki most of the plants do not require soil to grow. Actually, soil is just to give them support to the root system, as well as you get nutrients to soil. So in this right-hand side, there is a bucket, and inside bucket, they are filled with expanded clay which hold water. And then you say pipe, the entire watering and fertilization is through water and through drip irrigation. Now go to the next slide and I will show you some future farms, not yet in India some, but you can see that countries like New York and Singapore and all, where there is a space crunch, or lot of farms are coming vertical. So on the left hand side, you can see almost 6-layered vertical farm, again looks like for lettuce, but it is under lights, grow lights. They are called grow lights, so they give the same effect as sunlight. And in fact, with grow light, you can grow 24/7. Okay. And grow lights are used in all the countries where sunlight is a problem. Fortunately, in India, we don't have sunlight as an issue. But most of the greenhouses, if you go in European or Northern European or Northern US states, they require grow lights because their natural light is available only for 3-4 hours, which is as intensity required by the plants. Right hand side, if you see, it's in like containers. We see the containers, right? So there are now same vertical garden inside containers. So you just take a container, make an entire farm inside. Now, if you go left hand side, again, it's a vertical farm, but it's at an even higher scale. So if you see the height of the farm, it is at much higher. And right hand side bottom, again, it can be grown anywhere on the terraces and so on. So these are the concepts of hydroponics. So hydroponic advantage, of course, is you get residue-free crops, absolutely residue-free crops year-round because they are grown in the controlled environment. Actually, for example, now a broccoli, you take broccoli or zucchinis or say strawberry, they are winter crops. Like, and in Pune, Nasik area, they are grown between November to February. Outside also they grow actually. But now you will start getting in year-round. So they are grown actually in controlled environment greenhouses, and then they are available year-round. Another advantage of this is all these vegetables are packed at the farm and delivered like at same water we use from farm up to the consumer cold chain. So after the vegetables are harvested, they straight go into the cold room. Then they are packed and then they are transported to Mumbai and Pune in the cold vehicle and up to your house actually in the cold vehicle. So what happens, the freshness of the vegetables, the humidity content, and then because of that, the nutrients are as maintained as much as possible when they were harvested, and then they are typically delivered within between 24 to 36 hours from actually they are pulled out of the water or from coco peat. So this is roughly about the hydroponics. Now over to you for Q&A. Yeah, I can give more information through Q&A.
Sir, I just want to add a point here because I have been following this hydroponic vegetables since a long time. And I have also seen, as you mentioned, that butterhead, Roman lettuce, Lolo lettuce, and Swiss chard. And I would also like to say here that the images that you showed, so the produce that we get is exactly of the same color. So it's because the produce that we get outside, the color changes. But in hydroponics, the color is so fresh and it's so bright that you just cannot move your eyes from that produce. And it has given me immense actually benefits also. So while actually, making salads, all these vegetables, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely bright and fresh, especially Lolo lettuce. Even butterhead, and the butterhead and texture is actually buttery. So that's one part. But I have always failed to understand all these hydroponic produce. Are they organic all the time, or it may not be the case?
No, good question. So let me throw some light. I had put one slide on that, but I removed so that I can answer this through Q&A. So most people ask a difference between hydroponic and organic. So very clearly, to my mind, organic means anything grown in soil. Okay. Now that means hydroponic is not organic. Okay. However, US is divided. US and part of Europe is divided. In many US states and European countries, through their FDAs and all, they have actually approved hydroponic grown fruits and vegetables as organic. But actually, we should call it residue food rather than organic. Now, there is a debate, right? The US states are divided on it. Hydroponic farmers won't call it organic because they are as purer and nutrient rich as organic. But soil grown organic farmers don't want that to be called organic. But if you really go by definition of organic, organic means grown in soil, right? So if we go by that definition, the hydroponic is not organic.
Yeah, but they are residue free.
Yeah, but they are residue free. And I will tell you, in India, the problem in India is, abroad there are very, very stringent norms and audits and so on. But in India, the word organic is becoming more as a marketing thing than real organic. Because really, for in Indian context, somebody needs to certify organic. It is at a level of thousands acre or at a state level. See, for example, Meghalaya, or say I am told parts of Chhattisgarh or some parts of state, they have banned pesticide and use of chemical fertilizer over thousands of acres or throughout the state. Then it takes 5 to 6 years to really call it organic. However, today organic has become a buzzword. Even though you go to our farmer market, in all our footpaths, everybody puts it as an organic crop. So our farmer, I don't want to blame our farmers because they don't know. So they feel that direct from farm to market is organic. That means he has not brought through any truck and not put in somewhere in the mandi in a very unhygienic condition. That means it's organic, but that is not true. Today we are hardly get, I can tell you 1% of the vegetables which are called organic are real organic. And in Maharashtra, so it is impossible. I will tell you, the groundwater itself, as I told you, in 78 districts is contaminated. So even if they are using it without fertilizers, the water itself is contaminated. So and then even one farmer is spraying pesticide. Even his neighbor is using all organic practices. His farm is non-organic because the pesticides are carried by the wind. So, but anyway, there is more awareness. Even what is happening is, like you remember when ISO certification first came 25 years back, right? People generally used to get ISO tick mark, and then nobody. Even today, there are very fake organic labs certification happening. But I don't want to really blame farmers here because they are all these middlemen or people who are really making it non-organic thing organic and selling, because farmers don't know only, what is organic and what is not organic.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Shashank sir, another question related to the same thing. When you are when these fertilizers or the weedicides are added, so what is the ratio of calling it natural against compounded ones?
No. So first of all, weedicides are not added. Weedicides are sprayed, but they are not required in controlled environment. Even pesticides are sprayed, and most of the time in controlled environment, you require very, very rarely. And most of the time, people use in hydroponic like neem sprays, so which are perfectly organic sprays, or you get organic sprays. Now coming to the fertilizers, which are added. See, typically, even when we call plant organic, okay, like suppose we use cow dung, right, or bone meal inside our thing. Plant roots cannot absorb the nutrients from the bone meal or the cow dung unless the microorganism in the soil, they decompose it into nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus ions. And finally, those ions are sucked by the roots. Now here, in case of fertilizers, these are actually, so they are in the chemical form of nitrogen, phosphorus and this. So are these vegetable? They are actually chemicals. And when they are dissolved in water, then they are available as nitrogen ions, then phosphorus and potassium ions in certain percentages. Like for example, leafy greens require a lot of nitrogen. Okay, right. Then flowering stage, you require combination of NP, and then fruiting NPKs, different combinations. So you have to change the compositions as plants grow in different stages, but they are supplied in the ion form, and then the roots actually absorb those ions from the water, and then water gets recirculated. So here another advantage of hydroponic is when it is in the water, the unused water goes to the main tank. Then there is automatically it is checked for the nutrition depletion. Exact amount of additions are made in that main tank, and water is circulated again and again in the plant. Whereas in the cocoa pit, once it goes, it goes.
I have only one question, which is, when are we going to the farm? As you may have.
Yes, I know. I know it's a long pending. Only thing, all these second wave, third wave, all these things are really, it's scary, right? You know, but that's why we are holding. But most of the pictures are from my farm and my associate farms. So now what we are also doing, which is like happened in IT industry in 80s and 90s, right? We are trying to build community. So farmers who are ready to invest in hydroponics, we are saying that let's not compete, let's build community of good farmers with good practices, uniform processes. So in fact, from my side, actually, if anybody comes to me and wants my secret and processes, and we call it recipes of the fertilizers, I just give it to them, that because they should grow, and more such vegetables should be available to our customers, you know.
Right. Actually, if the availability increases, people will always choose these over the ones which are loaded with fertilizers.
Oh, and yes. Oh, yes.
If the
so spinach
if market availability increases, it will be affordable to almost everyone.
Correct. See, spinach is an example. You know, means I will tell you, when we started growing spinach, our spinach price is almost double the price of spinach, Judy, outside you get. And we were not sure whether anybody will buy our spinach, Judy, which is like double the cost. Okay, today that is my highest selling leafy, because lettuce we are still not, at least in Pune, lettuce we are not used to, right? Like butterhead, even for me, Maharashtrian, you know, we never had a butterhead. You know, at least I didn't have before I started growing. So, but spinach, we were surprised. Even in Mumbai, our spinach, red amaranth, now we introduce fenugreek, then ambatsuka, grown hydroponically at double the cost. It's the highest selling things, because they are absolutely fresh and residue free. So people buy it, you know. So we were surprised, but as you said, more and more supply, the prices will come down.
And there will be more buyers, definitely. And yes. So, you know, to tell you very frankly, even because of the availability in our local markets, we have always been buying only iceberg lettuce. From the time butterhead was introduced to our palate, you somehow, you know, you just want to bypass iceberg and just stick to butterhead. I mean, the kind of texture it gives, I mean, my God. I mean, everything, whether you are adding it to a wrap or to a salad or even to a burger, it provides so much of texture, you know, all your senses are actually, you know, satiated by the look of it, the color, the texture, the flavor, everything.
Swati, you're making us really hungry with so much of description.
But you must try them.
I think for me to understand his products, I think I should come to you to eat what.
Yes. Yes, yes, definitely. We can
Yes.
host. Actually, Shashank said that it could be a good idea that we set up a small, cookout at the farm itself. We plug it over there. We go prepared with all the salad dressings and have it right there.
Swati, I think there are some more questions. Gandhali has just typed a question. We should take some questions. I'm sure there will be many.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So what I wanted to know, so yours is purely hydroponic, or you got a combo of hydroponic and aquaponic?
No, see, aquaponic is almost similar to hydroponics.
Yeah, but then the use of fish, right?
No, but aquaponics, no. So mine is completely hydroponics. So because aquaponics today in India is practiced only in some of the coastal or properly practiced in some of the coastal greenhouses, and not yet very successful concept yet. Okay. There are few farms, and aquaponic is typically more successful in deep water culture, where there are huge ponds and then
the whole cycle.
So, yeah, yes, and the aquaponic with fish. See, aquaponic is available with fish, without fish, by the way, and so with fish can go closer to organic.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to come there. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Gandhali had a question.
Yeah. So, spinach, we were talking, right? And generally, spinach has a high uric acid content. So, with this technique, with no other fertilizers or the better technique, does the content go down?
I don't know. I can check, but I doubt it doesn't go down. Yeah.
No, it remains the same, Gandhali. It won't change much because these are irrigational practices. So there is no major change in the basic constitution of the vegetable.
Correct. The plant absorbs exactly the same thing what it would absorb from the soil. So same minerals it will absorb. So the contents, the nutrient contents of the plant will not change. Only the freshness will change. And the shelf life, because if you see most hydroponic veggies will remain fresh at least for 7-8 days, without any problem.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Then what about the seeds? Are the seeds here different than the seeds that are, grown otherwise in the soil?
No. So now, just before that, most of these lettuces which I showed, they are not grown in soil. Means they can be. Okay, but yes, seeds are same. You can use the same seeds. They can grow. You may not get the head size, say, as hydroponic, but you will get a lettuce in your home garden. All of these you can grow in home garden. Also in compost.
No. My point is commercially grown vegetables like tomatoes, right?
Yeah, they are special seeds.
These are special seeds. So these are seeds manufactured in India, or are they manufactured outside of the country? Are they GMO? Are they?
No, they are not genetically modified. Okay. Most of the lettuce seeds, the cherry tomato seeds, they now they are produced, means there are seed what you call seed farms in India, but the patents are with US and Netherlands companies, means companies abroad. And we also get a lot of lettuce seeds and different, like we have recently, I don't know whether we have already put on the website, but I know we have started fruiting is orange cherry tomatoes. Okay. Like we had red, yellow, and now we have orange cherry tomatoes, or snacking capsicum.
The peppers.
Yeah, peppers. So all those seeds are imported.
Okay. Yeah. So just now, this is not for Shashank, but this is for everyone else. So I had ordered certain things on his website. And then Wednesday, we were going to have some people over. So Tuesday, when the delivery guy came, I asked Shashank if they have, off-the-shelf things. And he said yes. So I went and I sneaked into the van. Believe me, it was spick and span, neat and clean. The boys, the van, the carpet inside the van, the carts, the packing. I mean, I was like floored. I should have taken a picture, but when he says hygiene, I mean, it's to the core. So I ended up picking a lot more things there. So
they don't deliver at my place.
Yeah.
I think they don't deliver at my place yet. Otherwise, I would be like biggest consumer.
Let me Dunzo it once.
Yeah.
Next time I order and I'll Dunzo it to you. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
One last question
to my place. Otherwise, your sourdough would have been here every week, right?
Okay, I'll get it dropped. Because
So, one last question, Shashank sir, for the likes of Priya ma'am now, who likes to cook and who likes to, she has a beautiful garden also. So, like you were talking about growing a community of vegetables, vegetable producers, are you also encouraging people to grow, have their own units? I mean, given the availability of a small space where people can have their own hydroponic setups?
So actually it is possible, and I was looking at it separately just because, you know, these are the things which can be easily grown on your terraces. Okay, a small hydroponic unit you can build. Only thing is they are hobby kits. So definitely you will get the same taste and quality. You may not get the same head size.
The produce may vary.
Yes, but you will able to enjoy growing it. I grow sometimes even in my balcony also, irrespective of the palm. In Pune, I recently experimented those round red radishes, and then I consumed using in salad. So I do some experimentation, and answer is yes. You can grow in your balconies, or you have terrace, great, because it requires sunlight. Only thing is the difference between commercial and here is the size and consistency of the produce. But it's a great enjoyment, let me tell you, when you grow on your own.
Yeah, but also weather is a big factor, because my mother has a small setup at her house. Now she lives in Aurangabad. So the weather varies like crazy. So initially in winter, she got very nice produce. But now the whole thing is like, you know, like you just get one or two, I mean, thoda methi or, you know, something of that kind. So, so weather and as he said, that controlled environment,
it's a light weather, humidity content, everything.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But that, I think the joy of creation by itself, you know, that you are growing your own vegetables. Probably, you know, you may grow less than 100 grams of probably tomatoes. You can always add it to the existing, vegetables that you've bought from outside. But just to have that preparation by itself must be a joyful activity. So on that note, I think we all are geared up for a lovely end to this week, and I'm so happy we discussed all of this. So at least for the next 1 week, when we are putting our thoughts to eating something raw, we will bring in a lot of variety and lot of color to our plate, irrespective of what we are having along with it around the weekend. So I think a happy weekend to all of you, and enjoy it to the most.